financial infrastructure in the sense of payments. Mobile money is very, very active in this region. And now I think comes that kind of first wave of fintech infrastructure in the region.
Yeah, I guess part of it is one of the things that we talked about yesterday was really around reducing the cost of data and reducing kind of the I guess barriers to smartphone and internet penetration. I'm going to switch a little bit to Numida. Mina, you've been building in this region for such a long time. Arguably, you are one of the OG fintechs in this region. How has that been from a customer acquisition perspective, especially when you think about internet penetration, data costs, as Alvaro had just mentioned?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think when we first started Numida in 2017, it was a very different climate and environment for startups and for digital technology in the marketplace, especially with our customer segment, which is micro and small businesses. I can tell you a story that when we first launched our Android app, at that time, there was still preferred data packages for social media as opposed to the open internet. And one of the major challenges we faced in the first probably 2 years of our operation was that a lot of our customers did not understand that they were not connected to the internet when they would buy a package that gave them Facebook, WhatsApp, and Twitter. And we had to create we had to educate a lot of our customers to understand that the internet is actually a much bigger place beyond social media, and that in order to access a mobile app like Numida, that they would have to buy data. And so that was a major behavior change. I think now, fast forward 6 years later, obviously that's no longer a question. I think we face significantly less friction when it comes to, downloading our mobile app in terms of cost, whereas definitely 6 years ago, we had to optimize our app to be extremely small in size. And so the size of our app was 5 megabytes. We did the calculation, we did a lot of market research to understand how much would somebody pay to download this app. And 5 megabytes was kind of like the answer. But now things are very, very different.
How do you guys think about, I guess, improving a lot of the basic tech infrastructure here? What do you see as challenges, specifically in this market? When you're starting to build products, what do you think actually needs to start evolving or improving? That's my first question for you. And then I'm going to go to Michael, who obviously you guys have expanded from Kenya to Uganda. What's that experience been like, and what are you expecting to see more of? What are the challenges and gaps that you see here in that expansion kind of journey?
I think the major challenges that we've seen over the years just continue to be around user experience and user interface, and just, there's a real question in this market around how do you build a mobile app for somebody who has never used a computer. It's a very different way of thinking compared to in the West, where you're designing and building an app for people who have grown up with computers from when they were, 5, 6, 7 years old. And that is an iterative thing. And what's been fascinating for me to see over the past few years is just how the younger generations in Uganda are far more technically savvy. And every year, that's changing, such that, now somebody will download our app, they have no problem using this product, whereas 5, 6 years ago there was a lot of education required.
Obviously, for us as Lipa, when we started out Ruby, we not only wanted to be a Kenyan company, we wanted to be an East African company and then a Pan-African company. So it only made sense for us to go to our neighbor, which is Uganda. And the market is ripe, and it has been ripe for quite some time. So economically, you're looking at a government and an economy that is very, very stable and is growing at a very, very fast rate. So in terms of us as Lipa, the company we're building and the products and the uptake. And to Mina's point, we had data as one of the barriers, and then we saw that fact that technological products in the country were barriers for the youth in this case. And so LIPA kind of like stepped in to ensure that we can be able to provide affordable, flexible to be able to acquire essential technology in the market. And the uptake has been really, really great. In terms of the challenges and how we've been trying to navigate that, is that from a legal standpoint and licensing, I know there's going to be a few people who's going to give me a few more tips. Fintech is always behind. So you'll end up always innovating faster than what the laws are. And my advice to anyone who's looking to take that plunge, to take that risk, is just go on forward and try and always collaborate with the industry players as well as the government to be able to overcome some of those challenges. Because in one way or another, we are the ones who shape those laws into being. Yeah.
I guess how's that challenge been for you specifically, and can you give us any kind of stories or anything that you kind of learned through that process?
When in doubt, ask those who came before you. So if you have a resource like Mina around, and the experience of him and his company and what he's built and everyone else on this panel, they can always help you navigate some of the challenges that you've had or you are probably facing right now. So, for example, one of the things that we really try to understand is like what license is right for us. Because you come into the market and you're told it's a microfinance license, it's a money lender's license, and there are 3 or 4 licenses that are not really suited to the organization. So, when you go to the people who have come before you, you can sort of like navigate that landscape and navigate how to really understand to close those gaps. Another thing is probably when you're starting out with your new products in the market, market sensitization and client sensitization is so, so important. As much as we're offering financial products in fintech, financial sensitization and financial education is equally as important for people to take up the products in the market, because they have to understand what they're doing and what they're taking. And this will, in the long run, help you in terms of the penetration of the products in the market.
Yeah, I guess what I'm hearing is that obviously the clarity around the regulatory requirements, the clarity around the licensing needs to be almost pushed outside of just your internal kind of founder networks. And I think that's probably a great takeaway here for policymakers and people who are kind of working with licensing generally. How do we make it a lot more clearer, a lot more easier, and a little bit more accessible for licensing around the fintech space to actually happen? I'd love to switch gears a little bit. I know that you are a huge advocate and kind of really bringing a lot of the fintech guys and players together. Maybe a little bit of your perspective on the regulatory environment, especially as investors here, when they're investing in fintech, they're asking, it's great, you've built this app, you've built all of this stuff, but are you actually regulated? And do you have strong governance around that?
Thank you very much for that. With FITSPA, one of the things that we're very deliberate about is to collaborate and build an ecosystem that actually fosters collaboration with the ecosystem that we're working in. And one of those is to work with various stakeholders. At the moment, within the Secretariat for FITSPA, we have been fortunate enough to partner with the Melinda Gates Foundation, of which has enabled us to advocate for the 210 members, and some of them are here on the stage with us. And this is very deliberate because, as you know, the National Payment Act came out a few years ago, and we were part of the stakeholders that actually advocated for this. And we have over 9 members that are now regulated by this regulation. And this is not only where we stop. There are other initiatives we're still working with, especially around the law, especially around the ecosystem, code of conduct, investor readiness. And we've also done a feasibility study with one of our partners, ABI Trust, which has been completed a month ago. This is basically to get the investor readiness and also to set up a fund that will help us to achieve. That's why we're here at Science Week to collaborate with STI. David has been very fortunate to work with us through the Honorable, and the Honorable was a guest of honor during our week at FITSPA when we were doing our conference. In there, one of the things that was highlighted is the gap, which is the conversation we're having today. How do investors come on board? How do we get our members to be able to have this conversation around investment? Are our members investor ready? So these are some of the highlights that I can talk more about, and this is something that we can help to advocate for. But the last thing that is most important to our investors in the audience, we have a deal room where we have 16 members that are ready to be invested in, and this information has been shared with some of our members already that are in the audience, but we're happy to continue that conversation. Thank you.
Everyone needs to be part of your squad, actually.
Absolutely.
Got it.
Yeah.
I'm going to quote you on something. So in your study, you basically documented that I think it was something like 50% or 57% of early stage capital is actually from the founder's own capital in this country, which basically is saying that if you don't have capital, you're not going to be able to build a business.
Absolutely. So one of the limitations we've noticed in our feasibility study is all the startups are actually generating about 50 to 60% of their own capital, and this cannot help them to scale to that next level where you get them to be investor ready, for them to be able to go into a sandbox and be able to meet the requirements for the regulation. So this is where we now partner as the Secretariat at FITSPA. We can help the investors to navigate and handhold our members to start this journey so that we can collaborate with them through this. And the study has highlighted the key challenges that we have, and now we are trying to address those in our next milestones.
Yeah, I'm going to touch on something that you kind of talked about, which was scale. I think we're going to play Mythbusters, I think, for a second. A lot of people that we heard speak yesterday within the investor base, so many of them basically said that we're not sure about Uganda. We don't know if companies can scale across Uganda. Truth or false? I'll start with Cephas, and then we'll go into Mina.
Thank you, Nimisha. When it comes to scaling, what we have found in the market is that there's an element of compartmentalization, whereby we are looking at, for example, an entry point of IT transport. IT transport is largely undeveloped, and we strongly believe that if we have got a perfect environment in Uganda to build an ecosystem of IT transport where you are not only selling devices, but you have an opportunity to build a complete ecosystem that you can test, try, test, and scale across the region. And what I mean is, for example, some of the services we've tried, we've done over 1 million transactions. And we are seeing great success in IT transport. And we're saying that this is an area that needs to be given due attention because the potential of moving 3, 4, 5 million commuters per day is an immense opportunity. So for example, if you have 40 million commuters in the region, it is a huge opportunity for investment. Thank you.
Mina?
I think that it is a myth that Uganda is a small market. I don't think there's any more direct way to say it. I think this is often a belief from people who have spent very little or no time in the country and maybe have just read World Bank reports or some sort of academic studies about the market opportunity in Uganda. Obviously, if you come here and you go to CBD, you go into downtown Kampala, you're going to see people hustling and making money and driving the economy. And you know, this is a country that has a population of more than 40 million people, a very young population, one of the youngest populations on the continent. And so the potential opportunity for scale here, especially with anything related to digital technology, is massive. And I think, you know, it's great that this event is going on. I think we need to bring more and more people, you know, on the 1-hour flights from Nairobi to Entebbe to come and see what is actually happening in this country, and to, you know, spend real time here, not 24 hours, but come for a week, come for 2 weeks, move around, talk to entrepreneurs, talk to banks, go into the market and talk to small business owners. And I think a lot of people will be very, very surprised at the amount of work that is happening here and the amount of potential to really create value in the country. And I think across every industry, every value chain, the opportunities are unlimited. I think I'll just give one tangible example. Numida started in 2017 providing loans to micro and small businesses through a mobile app. You know, it's 2023 right now. I don't think we have a direct competitor yet. And, you know, that should tell you something about the opportunity in the country. Obviously, there's more room available. We would love more competition, and I think it would drive the industry forward. So, you know, there's lots of opportunity here for sure.
Yeah, just to add to that, sorry. One myth I feel that needs to be busted is that Uganda is a step behind. I think Uganda is right there with, you know, Kenya, Nigeria, and Egypt in terms of the entrepreneurs that are coming out of Uganda and some of the innovation that's coming out of Uganda. And I think I was talking to Alvaro earlier today, and I think one of the things we just said, not enough noise being made about it. A lot of innovation in the markets, a lot of innovation in the country. But we just need to make a lot more noise to be seen and to be known.
Hello? Oh. So I think just to wrap up, basically we're saying myth busted. And Uganda's definitely a great place to start incubating, start testing ideas, start to actually scale either as a first market rather than just a secondary market. I'm going to switch gears to go a little bit deeper into the fintech side, Alvaro. One of the biggest challenges that we've seen when you really look at what's really happened in Africa over the last kind of decade, we've seen a lot of digital banking companies. We've seen a lot of companies across the world actually building these types of banking products. And we talk a lot about financial inclusion through many different avenues, whether it's through mobile money, through financial inclusion, through lending. And then obviously some of the hardest kind of PR topics tend to be neobanking. How do you see more broadly when you're addressing kind of a younger market, when you're addressing kind of a more nascent market where financial infrastructure doesn't exist as deeply, how do you think about, as an investor, some of the monetization strategies, some of the, how you think about pricing, some of the risks that exist in earning in local currencies? How do you think about the go-to-market as well for these fintech products so that they can stand up on their own 2 feet?
Yeah, I think.
Do you want to come closer for the mic?
Yeah, sorry. I think it's a great question, you know, and it stems back to building, you know, financial solutions that are actually, you know, targeted towards the population that will allow you to scale, right? And if you build a neobank that is targeting the 1% of the population that is used to digital products, then not only will the scale probably not be there, you might be the hot new fintech out there, but the amount of impact and the amount of financial inclusion that you'll actually have won't be very, very big, right? But then you take a look at solutions like Numida, you take a look at solutions like Lipa Later, and they are targeting financial products that will actually include the majority of the population, right? The highest percentage of GDP in this country comes from MSMEs, and targeting financial solutions for them is, I think, the way to build a credible, monetizable strategy that in the end is what every investor, I think, is looking for. Again, it doesn't mean that you should build companies for investors. You should rather build them for profitable business models, but I think that's exactly what allows you to do that as well.
I'm going to switch to Cephas. I think it'd be great to hear a little bit about your journey as well, mostly because you've obviously built here in Uganda, you've partnered with government entities as well. How have you thought about that go-to-market? Obviously, the B2B sales cycle is much longer. The B2G can be even longer. How is that has that been sort of a challenge? Has it been actually quite straightforward? What has that experience been? And how can we kind of work with some of the other startups in this room to actually take similar routes?
Thank you. This is a very interesting environment because one of the challenges that we have here are around services, whereby almost many government programs, government services, citizen services are not digitized. So we have seen entering into the first time we walked into some of these government entities, they have large tons of paper. And fast forward, you have been able to successfully implement technologies that today those offices are paperless. And alongside that, we have seen large amounts of revenue, service delivery, security enhancements, and also provide health data. And because of that, and providing that service, we have seen that these customers, government customers, have been able to provide referrals, and therefore we are able to retain them as customers over a large period of time. But the challenge that we have, number one, has been around the human capital. Human capital is a very big challenge because finding skilled resources has been a very, very big challenge. And the talent base is not that great, but what we have done is pick a few resources from universities and skill them up, and we have seen great improvement in that area. So if you're a potential investor, it is not to say that there are no skilled resources, it is to find a way of identifying trainable skills, and you will be surprised at how much you can deliver. Then the other issue has been around access to credit or financing. You have a great idea, financing it is problematic, and I guess that's why we're all here today. Then the last one is around the processes, and the processes in terms of getting authorization, processing contracts, the procurement procedures. They are what you'd call the big barrier into the industry. However, I believe that when you cross over into the fintech, it takes a large amount of time and paperwork to process a license. So, for example, it has taken us over 1 year to secure a banking and payment license. So if you're talking about delivering a service like an IT transport, which is not a device only, the whole ecosystem, but you have the payment enablement. This payment enablement requires licensing through the central bank, means that it will take you a little bit longer. However, with a little bit patience, all this is doable. And once you have the highly regulated license, you're able to deliver the service. Remember that as much as it is a barrier, there's also a positive area because you're touching customers' money, people's money, and therefore, if it is not regulated, you're talking about fraud, which scares investors. But if it is in a regulated environment, you have got clear board, clear governance, then you have a success story in the making. So I really encourage investors or even the service providers who are willing to get into the industry to go through the process and exercise a little bit of patience. Thank you.
So I think we need to be working with Henry again to get as much partnership as we can on the licensing side. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. For me, mine is very deliberate. I think FITSPA is the anchor to some of the issues that we're addressing today. And I think for us, ours is very simple: to build a community of innovators and advocates for the growth of Uganda, hiring our youth, pioneering the innovation that is available, and again, to be the next big thing in the country. Because we believe that technology is going to leapfrog everything. And with science, and during this Science Week, we have seen a lot of new innovations. We are seeing new sectors that are coming up. And our role is to have financial inclusion for everybody. And I believe as an association, our job is to advocate. Our job is to collaborate. Our job is to foster and create an environment for the ecosystems so that we can flourish. All the investors that are here in the country today, we appeal to them to come and talk to us. We have clients that are ready to be invested in, and we also have opportunities of incubating the next new startups. And we believe that we have some unicorns that are going to come out of this economy in the next few years. Thank you.
Nice. Okay, I'm going to switch gears slightly before we wrap up because I know we're late on time. Before I come to the audience for maybe one or two questions, I wanted to start with Alvaro. So as you think about what you've seen in Uganda, as you think about Speed Invest's strategy for Africa, what are the sort of top 2 or 3 areas of fintech that you guys are actively looking at?
I think, wait, hello, yeah. I think a lot of this should be driven by